take a second right now and just look around you. Look at the screen in front of you, the chair you're sitting in, maybe the light coming through the window. I mean, it all feels so undeniably real, right? So incredibly solid and physical. But what if I asked you to seriously consider a pretty wild question? What are the chances you're actually living in base reality? What if this physical universe around us isn't physical at all?
To really set the stakes for this, we've got to look at a pretty infamous quote. Back in 2016, tech billionaire Elon Musk casually dropped this absolute bombshell. The chances that we're in base reality is 1 in billions. Think about that. He was arguing that overwhelmingly, literally by a margin of billions to 1, we are almost certainly living inside a hyper-advanced computer simulation. Now, I know it sounds like pure science fiction, but the actual scientific and technological backing for this idea is getting stronger every single day.
In this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly why some of the smartest minds in computer science and physics are taking this simulation hypothesis seriously. And to help guide us, we'll be looking through the lens of Rizwan Virk. He's an MIT tech entrepreneur and author, and his whole journey into this started with a pretty eye-opening moment about a decade ago. He was testing out this early, kind of rudimentary VR headset, playing a ping-pong game. The graphics weren't even that great, but the physics engine, the way the ball bounced, the gravity, was so hyper-realistic that it literally tricked his brain. He actually tried to lean his physical weight on this digital table that simply did not exist. And as he almost fell over, this massive realization hit him. If our clunky, early-stage VR can already fool the human brain this well, where on earth is this tech going to be in 1,000 years?
Section 1. Video games and AI.
Okay, so our first huge clue is hiding right in the exponential growth of gaming. Just think about the timeline here. In just a blink of an eye, technologically speaking, we've skyrocketed. Back in 1972, we were totally mesmerized by Pong, which was basically just two little white blocks batting a third block across a black screen. By the 90s, we had Doom giving us fully navigable 3D worlds. Fast forward to 2016, and games are generating entire infinite galaxies on the fly. And now, looking toward 2026 and beyond, we've got AI models that can generate immersive 3D environments live, purely on demand. We went from moving 3 pixels to AI-generated persistent universes in barely half a century.
Just to put that into perspective, consider this absolutely mind-bending number, 18 quintillion. When the game No Man's Sky came out in 2016, it featured 18 quintillion explorable planets. So, how did a tiny indie team of developers handcraft that many worlds? Well, they didn't. They used something called procedural generation. The code doesn't actually store 18 quintillion planets on a massive hard drive somewhere. Instead, it uses a math algorithm to just generate the 3D world right as your ship flies into it. It's like a giant puzzle, where the universe only renders itself when a player is actively there to see it.
And here's where it gets really crazy. This procedural world building is right on the cusp of fully merging with artificial intelligence. Rizwan Virk predicts we're rapidly closing in on what he calls the Metaverse Turing test. And get this, he thinks it's less than 5 years away. That's the moment you could walk into a VR room, chat with an AI-driven character, and chat with an avatar controlled by a real human, and you'll have absolutely no idea which is which. They'll be completely indistinguishable. So if we are basically on the verge of creating simulated universes filled with conscious-seeming inhabitants after just a few decades of computing, what are the odds that a civilization 1,000,000 years older than us hasn't already done it to us?
Section 2. Quantum physics as code.
So the rabbit hole actually goes way deeper than computer science. We have to talk about the genuinely spooky world of quantum mechanics. Generally, there are 2 ways to look at reality. The old-school materialist view assumes the universe is basically a museum. Everything is solid stuff, and it exists at all times, whether you're looking at it or not. But quantum physics, it aligns almost perfectly with the computer science view, specifically a coding trick called lazy programming. Now, lazy programming isn't actually lazy. It's brilliant. It's a hyper-efficient way to conserve processing power by dictating that a computer should never, ever render pixels or process code unless it is absolutely needed at that exact microsecond. And wouldn't you know it, this exact programming logic beautifully mirrors the observer effect in quantum physics. If you look at the famous double-slit experiment, when scientists fire particles like photons, they don't act like physical little bullets. Instead, they act like a wave of probabilities. They exist in this weird superposition, where they're literally going through multiple paths at the exact same time. The truly crazy part, they only collapse into a single, fixed, physical particle at the exact moment a scientist measures or observes them. The physical universe is behaving exactly like a procedurally generated video game. It keeps everything as abstract math and only draws the pixels of reality when a player is actually looking.
Section 3. 4 assertions of reality.
Now, I know this sounds like sci-fi masquerading as philosophy, and it definitely triggers some skepticism, but academic circles are taking this seriously. Virk lays out a formal framework for simulation theory that bridges hard science and spirituality, broken down into 4 clear assertions. 1. The universe is based on information, not matter. 2. Reality is rendered on demand. 3. The physical world is essentially a grand hoax. And 4. We actively made a role-playing game choice to be here. What's absolutely wild is that modern physicists broadly agree with those first 2. It's really just the last 2 that cross over into the metaphysical.
Let's double-click on that first assertion for a second. The legendary physicist John Wheeler, a guy who literally worked alongside Einstein and Niels Bohr, coined this phrase, "it from bit." It's this mind-blowing idea that physical matter, down its very absolute core, isn't stuff. If you zoom in past the atoms, past the quarks, the foundation of our entire universe is just pure information answering binary yes/no questions, just like a 0 or a 1 in a computer processor. Or, as quantum physicists call it today, a qubit. We aren't made of matter, guys. We're literally made of code.
And framing the universe as code elegantly solves one of the biggest headaches in all of science, the fine-tuned universe problem. Like, why are the laws of physics so unbelievably perfectly balanced to allow us to exist? Some scientists suggest a physical multiverse, where an infinite number of random universes exist physically. But creating a brand new, physically real universe for every single quantum decision, that is incredibly wasteful of energy. A simulated multiverse, on the other hand, is optimized. It's efficient. Just like a computer trims off unused timelines and only processes the required data, a simulation perfectly explains why our reality feels so uniquely tuned without needing infinite amounts of physical matter.
Section 4. Glitches, quests, and karma. So, what does this all mean for you, watching this right now? How does quantum mechanics connect to your Tuesday morning? Well, have you ever experienced a glitch in the matrix? The famous psychologist Carl Jung called this synchronicity, an acausal connection between an internal thought and an external physical event. Virk uses a super relatable example here. Say you're thinking really hard about buying a very specific, weirdly shaped backpack. The next day, you're scrolling your phone and bam, an ad for that exact backpack pops up. Now, if you didn't know how internet cookies and ad databases worked, you'd think it was straight up magic. But because we know how the digital database tracks our intent, it makes total sense. In a simulated universe, synchronicities are just the overarching database of reality registering your personal intent and serving up physical events that match it.
Which brings us to the coolest idea of all. What if life operates exactly like the mechanics of an RPG, a role-playing game? Think about it. When you boot up a new RPG, what's the first thing you do? You hit the character creation screen. You pick your class, your stats, and the difficulty level of the challenges you're going to face. But to make the game truly immersive, you kind of have to forget you're sitting on a couch playing it. Across history, ancient spiritual concepts have perfectly mirrored this. The Greeks believed souls drank from the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, before being born. Jewish mysticism talks about the angel Layla wiping a baby's memory right before birth. These aren't just myths. They're beautifully describing a video game's reset button. You log in, accept your level-appropriate quests for this lifetime, and wipe your memory of the outside world so you can actually learn from the gameplay.
So, how do you level up in this game? Karma. But actually, scratch the whole mystical, cosmic justice idea of karma for a second. Translate it into modern tech terms. Karma is literally just a database. Every single action you take, every consequence you generate, gets logged as data attached to your avatar. Over your lifetime, you're constantly building up this massive database of information, and eventually, your code has to process those actions. You always carry your save file with you.
And honestly, looking at reality this way completely shifts how we can process human suffering and hardship. Virk points out a really profound perspective. He says, I would prefer to be in a simulation because of all the things that happen here. Those people made bad choices and they're going to go back and have to learn it again. You know, people who have near-death experiences almost always describe a life review. It's like a post-game replay where they don't just see their life, they actually feel the emotional impact they had on others. Viewing our reality as an educational simulation, it's actually an incredibly comforting framework. It means the evil and the pain in the world aren't just random, meaningless chaos. They are profound teaching tools in a physics engine designed specifically for our ultimate growth.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. If all this evidence is pointing in the right direction, if the quantum observers, the efficient timelines, and the procedural mechanics prove that life is actually just a highly advanced multiplayer simulation, what character class did you choose before you hit start? And when you look at the toughest hardships and challenges you're facing right now, not as random suffering, but as high-level, specific quests you personally selected to learn from, what is your true quest in this game? Keep leveling up, and we'll see you next time.